Greetings, good morning, and welcome to Mind the Moment. This, my friends, is our coffee house in the cloud, a place to come together, build community, get centered, and see what the present moment has to present to us. It is August 14th, 2020, which happens to be the birthday of author, actor, comedian, playwright, and musician Steve Martin. Martin once stated, "Talking about music is like dancing about architecture." And this reminded me of another great quote by another great artist, Carmen Herrera, who once said, "You can't talk about art, you have to art about art. Then you know something." As a matter of fact, it was none other than Tara Healey who turned me on to that quote from Carmen Herrera, and Tara has often used it as a metaphor for meditation, meaning you can talk about meditation as much as you like, but until you actually do it, you won't fully understand what it can do for you. It's my pleasure then to introduce Tara Healey, who just moments from now will be helping us meditate on meditation in hopes of helping us understand it a little bit better. Good morning to you, Tara.
Good morning, John. Good morning, everyone. Happy to be with you this morning. And I love that you brought up that Carmen Herrera quote.
Yes, it just rolls back around in the head every once in a while.
One of my favorites.
So Tara, by the way, is the founder and director of Harvard Pilgrim Health Care's mindfulness program, which I've been lucky enough to be working with now for nearly 10 years. I'm John Roberts, your humble host for today's session. After Tara leads us in a 10-minute guided meditation, I'll be leading us into some Q&A with Tara. We'll invite you as well to ask Tara any questions that come to your mind. In preparation for that, please take a moment to open up the chat box at the bottom of your screen, which you can use to type in any questions or comments at any time. So Tara, as a way to warm up our fingers, is there anything you'd like to ask the folks at home to comment on as we're—
Yes, you know, I was thinking about that this morning. I went out for a run early this morning and thinking about what question to open with. And one that I used a while ago, I'm going to use again because there were a lot of responses, and I thought the timing would be good. So the question is, what gives you hope these days?
All right, very good. So while folks are typing, please know how grateful we are for your tuning in and taking time to be with us this morning and with each other. Also worth mentioning is the fact that the Steve Martin quote I noted at the top of the session is almost certainly a misquote, having been variously attributed throughout the years not only to Steve Martin, but also Frank Zappa, Laurie Anderson, Martin Mull, Elvis Costello, and Thelonious Monk. I think it's a fitting tribute to Steve Martin to misquote him, however, given that so much of his humor is based on tricking the listener's brain into second-guessing what it's expecting to hear. We'll make sure not to misquote anything you say, though do keep in mind that only Tara and I will be able to see anything that you type. If we don't read your particular question or comment on air, do know that we read and appreciate them all. Before closing, I'll point out some other ways for you to stay in touch with us as well. All right, so what is giving people hope? Okay, so the risk of seeming partisan. Somebody is mentioning Kamala Harris's addition to the Joe Biden ticket. A very exciting pick for folks who are looking for a little more diversity in our political pool. Somebody says they're hopeful because it's almost the weekend. Somebody is hopeful for their daughters, their family. That's wonderful. Tara, what are you hopeful for this day?
This morning when I was out for a run, which I think is what sort of prompted me with the question, is that I really have been enjoying nature, and there was a yellowfinch that kind of flew very close to me, right in front of me, that was just so beautiful. So I feel those are the kind of things that are uplifting. You know, it's just this little thing, but yeah, I think I am just uplifted by nature. And my house kind of is pushed up against wood, a lot of woods in a field. So I've just been noticing a lot of animals lately. And early this morning, I heard an owl, which I have typically hear in the summer, but haven't for whatever reason. So just hearing an owl really early this morning was also, I don't know, it just makes me feel hopeful and that there are some good things happening in the world.
Tara, I'm going to tell you something. I was in Mount Auburn Cemetery a couple of days ago, and I was about 6 feet away from a barred owl in a tree. both of us had the same reaction. You saw me, he was like, and I saw him, and I was like, and then he flew away. But it was a wonderful moment of I feel like
Yes.
we had a moment together. But
Yeah, no, that it's really kind of amazing too. I think when an animal looks at you and you look at the animal, like you are both knowing each other is there. And yeah, it's such an interesting thing. And they are very elusive and shy, so you don't see them that often. So that's really cool.
yeah, somebody writes, it is so hopeful that nature continues as it is. I
Yeah.
think it is worth noting that nature always wins, and it's a good thing that we're a
Yeah.
part of it.
Yes.
So Tara, with that, let me turn it over to you to get us
Okay.
started with the meditation.
Yeah, great. All right, everyone. So let's settle into the posture that is most comfortable for you right now, and always remember that standing is a perfectly fine posture to take when practicing. So either in a standing or a sitting posture, you want to hold yourself in a way that is upright and engaged yet relaxed, so that the spine is straight but not stiff. If it feels comfortable, you can close the eyes, but it's also completely fine to keep them open. And if you're standing, sometimes it's easier to keep them open for balance and just gaze downward a little bit. So let's just take a moment to settle into that posture of ease and relaxation, yet engagement. Making micro movements of the body, noticing the points of contact with the body and the surface. So the soles of the feet, or all along the back of the body. If you're seated, aware of those points of contact. And becoming aware of the sensations in your body from the activity of your day so far. And so aware of pulsing or vibration, tingling, temperature. Just take a moment to notice with attention over the whole body, what's going on, up the curiosity. And just for a moment, I'm going to have us move from whole body awareness, receiving sensations, to sound. So kind of receptive to sound that may be occurring in the room that you're in, or perhaps outside of the room, without labeling what's making it, but just simply hearing. And for a moment, allowing sound to serve as an anchor. As you feel ready, releasing sound as a primary anchor for your attention, just allowing sound to remain in the background. Begin to bring the attention back inward to the body, starting to notice the rhythm of your breath. How is your breath this morning? How are you breathing? And see if you can note where in the body the sensation is strongest. So do you notice when you inhale and exhale that the abdomen, the rise and fall, is easy to track or follow? Or perhaps the chest, the rise and fall of the chest. And for some people, they notice the sensation of air going in and out of the nostrils. So it's a finer tuned awareness. Really doesn't matter where you're placing your attention. You want to place it where you connect with it strongest. And it could also be the palms of the hands resting on the thighs and that point of contact. Doesn't have to be the breath. So taking a moment to just see where you want to place your attention, what anchor you prefer to use this morning. Noticing where the mind is, softening the body and returning to your anchor. When noticing where the mind is, releasing thought, softening the body, and returning attention to what is holding your awareness, to your anchor. And as we bring this meditation to a close, may we be peaceful and at ease. May our heart be soft and open. May we be safe and protected, and our bodies healthy and strong. And may the merit of this practice be for the benefit of all beings. And as you feel ready, allowing your eyes to open if they were closed, and re-engaging.
Thank you for that, Tara.
Yeah.
Quick question for you, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
When you sit yourself, when you are meditating by yourself, do you have the same sort of routine that you go through? For example, focusing on sound for a moment, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wondering if you think it's been useful for you to create a kind of ritualized or routinized way of doing that, or if you kind of keep it loose when you're meditating yourself.
Well, I mean, it's probably a little bit of both, John. I definitely have habits because I have been doing this for a long time. But yeah, I mean, I typically, the typical routine for me is I meditate in the evening and, do a little bit of settling in. I always open to sound. That is something that I typically do, sort of check in with the body, open to sound, release the sound, and then return to the body. And a lot of times, I'll use more of a whole body awareness as opposed to a more fine-tuned anchor. But the other thing is that I really also like open awareness. So you're just aware of thoughts, emotions, body sensations, sound, the arising, falling. So yeah.
Well, I love. I mean, I know where you happen to live. You happen to live sort of, in a more natural environment. You're not surrounded, thickly by houses, and so I can
Right, right.
starting your focus on sound. You must get a sense of time passing. I know right now in New England we have some very nice summer bugs that are beginning to emerge, and so
Yes.
it's another nice way to sort of connect with the natural world, I think. So that's
Yeah, no, it's really nice. In fact, it's pretty loud at night, especially, because the windows are all up. And so, hearing the sounds of nature, and, you can track that sound too, and use that as an anchor. It doesn't really matter what you choose to focus on. What matters is the quality of awareness you bring to that thing. And ultimately, you're just learning to kind of settle the mind, and that enables mindfulness to work more effectively.
great question coming in here. Somebody asks, during meditation like this, is it best to have the breath in and out through the nose or nose and mouth?
I one of the things about this practice is that it's somewhat subjective. And so what I would say is trust what feels best for you, what you feel that the way that you're able to connect the strongest. And that can actually vary from time to time. So it's not necessarily that, you know, this morning I was really connecting well with breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth, or in through the nose and out through the nose. You can vary that and just see, like, where am I connecting strongest this morning? What feels best? But as you know, from my perspective, it doesn't really matter. What matters is what is going to be most supportive and serve you best.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this recently because I find myself sometimes alternating between paying attention to not so much the nose and mouth, but going back and forth between paying attention to the breath at the nostrils and then paying attention to the feeling of my belly rising and falling. And I do feel that I have a bit of a different reaction at the nostrils. I feel like I become more deeply concentrated, but when I pay more attention to the belly, I feel like I become more aware in general. It reminds me a little bit of when if I'm using like an exercise machine to work on a particular muscle versus something like swimming where you're engaging the full body in in that way.
Yeah, no, it's a really, yeah, it's a good example. And it's a really, really interesting question. I think that the only thing I would caution people with is when you have selected a way of breathing or a particular practice that you're going to work with, to not switch around during that particular practice. Like, just stick with that thing. So if you're deciding to do more open awareness or a particular way of breathing, like, stay with that rather than switching around.
Well, so I'm going to geek out with you a little bit, Tara. And actually, I want you to correct me if I'm mistaken about this.
Okay.
But I recall that Joseph Goldstein's teacher, one of his teachers, Mahasi Sayadaw, recommended, I think especially to his Western students, they pay attention to the abdomen or the belly, because I think that he thought that would be easier for Western students. Is that right in what you've heard? And if so, do you agree with that, or?
Well, again, like some things I wish I knew really early on in my practice would be that you can trust yourself and to experiment with there are a few different methods of practice. And one isn't necessarily better than the other. And I know, like, belly breathing, I'm trying to think, I think it was like a Burmese teacher. I'm sort of drawing a blank on that would be belly breathing, but not necessarily did I hear because Western students would connect with it easier, but that was as a teacher, that was the method that he was teaching. But yeah, again, I really think, I want people to trust themselves, and that to know there are a few different ways to practice and to see, what am I connecting with this morning? And to work with that and trust that.
That's good. All right, so I do want to make sure that folks know they should feel very encouraged to ask Tara
Yes,
any questions that come to mind. But while folks are thinking and typing,
yeah.
So Tara, on Tuesday, Jackie Johnson was here, and she read a quote from the Franciscan friar Richard Rohr, which got me really interested in learning a little bit more about this guy. So I was reading a bit about him, and I came across another quote, which I found interesting. And so this is what he wrote, quote, wonder is our birthright. It comes easily in childhood, the feeling of watching dust motes dancing in sunlight, or climbing a tree to touch the sky, or falling asleep thinking about where the universe ends. If we are safe and nurtured enough to develop our capacity to wonder, we start to wonder about the people in our lives too, their thoughts and experiences, their pain and joy, their wants and needs. We begin to sense that they are to themselves as vast and complex as we are to ourselves, their inner world as infinite as our own. In other words, we are seeing them as equal. We are gaining information about how to love them. Wonder is the wellspring for love, end quote. So my question for you, if you don't mind engaging with this, is can mindfulness help us capture or recapture a sense of wonder in our lives? And in your experience, will doing so bring us closer to experiencing other people in their fullness?
Yes, so John, I'm going to actually start with the second part of that question. And, one thing I've said often when I'm teaching is that in my early days of practice, I started to realize that not only was I understanding the nature of my own mind, I was actually understanding the nature of minds in general. And it really, it started to sort of open me to other people in a very different way, in a much more compassionate way. I mean, I feel like I have that I am naturally kind of soft-hearted and compassionate, but this really this changed that. I started recognizing that all minds do this. Our stories are different because our upbringings and our life experience is different. So the content might be, but this is the nature of the mind, and it really helped me to understand just, I think, not only myself but human beings in deeper ways. And then John, the first half of the question, I feel like part of what this practice can offer us is more curiosity about the mystery of our existence. That, it is in fact so mysterious, but I think most of us aren't trained or thought, encouraged to have inquiry about our existence and about the natural world around us, and the plants and the animals, and how everything works so synergistically. It's really quite fascinating. And I was thinking how, like, we call a bird, but it's not really a bird. It's just a contextual overlay to help us have language around what's going on. And, so it's not, but there's so much mystery to what we are surrounded by. And I think sometimes even the labels we give things sort of removes it. It's like, oh, that's just a bird, but it's not really a bird. That's, what we give it for a context.
Yeah, you're reminding me of the conversation we had with Judd Brewer the other week, where he was saying that the mind craves information, which in one sense is a good thing, but in another sense, it's always trying to find the answer to questions as quickly as possible, while sometimes the mind needs to stand dumbfounded in order to grow.
Yeah.
In awe of the lack of an answer or the lack of a clear answer. And
Yes.
I do think mindfulness helps us become comfortable with that sense of the not knowing.
Exactly. Yeah. And I feel like it happens imperceptibly over time. It's like the practice is working even if you don't think it's working. It's like there's a certain amount of trust, patience, and discipline that's required. And if you have a little bit of each of those things and keep at it, start to see for yourself what might open to you, a kind of curiosity or an interest that might take you by surprise.
Okay, so this is kind of a big question that came in, and so I'm not sure if we're going to unpack this whole thing, but we might gloss it at the very least. The question is, when you speak about the nature of the mind, are you suggesting that all of us have the same tendencies in the way we process stress, fear, anxiety? I mean, so my initial hit on that is this is like really kind of a nature nurture question.
Yeah.
Right. I'm trying to think if there's well, there's no easy way to answer this, but if there is a mindfulness answer to this question versus maybe a more of a
yeah. So yeah, so the suggestion, are you suggesting we all have the same tendencies in the way we process, say, stress, fear, anxiety? I think the tendencies and way we process may be learned habits from families, in people influential in our lives. So that, how we process it could be more related to our upbringing. But what is similar is that, that the way the mind works is it goes into the past, it goes into the future, it chomps away on things. It's like if the mind had a job description, it would be to think, analyze, ruminate. So we all have these tendencies because this is how the mind actually works. It ruminates. But the actual ways we deal with stress or might be more related to familial patterns, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm also thinking about how the take on this in mindfulness, as I understand it, is you can try to figure out where these reactions to stress, fear, anxiety came from. You can try to analyze that, but it's just going to potentially create more confusion.
Definitely.
And at the very least, the place to start is in this moment and addressing the feeling in this moment before trying to dig back.
Yeah, exactly. And one other thing I want to just say that I see that another question came in. I actually want to address that quickly. What if it takes the whole 10 minutes to settle? I would actually let go of the idea of settling. Just completely let go of the idea of settling, because I have sat for 45 minutes without settling at all. So it's like, there's no need to settle. That's setting an expectation that something should happen, that settling should happen. When always approach practice with sort of an openness to what might occur. And the idea is, we're using breath as an anchor to help get some steadiness. That may or may not happen. So cut yourself some slack in a way.
All right. Well, I think that is, I think we have to cut it there, unfortunately. But we'll be back. We're back every Tuesday and Friday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Now, you can find the links to these sessions and other resources at harvardpilgrim.org/mindfulness. Now, if you have questions that we didn't get to or didn't get to fully, or that you think of later in the week and you want to ask then, you can send them to askmtm@harvardpilgrim.org. We will address them, or you can leave me a voicemail at 617-509-7047. Now, we'd love to have you check out the free resources around mindfulness and pain management, which we're offering through a partnership with Mindful Magazine. Those can be found at mindful.org/pain. Now, meanwhile, you can see all the stuff that we have been up to on our Facebook page, facebook.com/mindthemoment. And you can rewatch this session, older sessions, introductory sessions featuring Tara on our YouTube page, youtube.com/mindthemoment. And if I may offer a final thought from Steve Martin, which I promise you he did say, and which he frequently used as a way to end his performances, quote, "I'm not going home tonight. I'm going to Banana Land, a place where only two things are true. Only two things. One, all chairs are green. Two, no chairs are green." A mindful reminder, I think, that truth is rarely absolute and almost always dependent on where you're standing or sitting. Tara, I want to thank you for putting us on good footing today with your practice and your guidance. I'm wondering if you could leave us with one resource that you think people would find especially useful as they continue to grow their practice. If you have one off the top of your head, I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Yeah, honestly, yes, I did not prep a resource. I wonder if anybody out there has come across anything.
Oh, well, I would say I was really enjoying reading about Richard Rohr. So his name is R-O-H-R, Richard Rohr. He's a Franciscan friar. So it's going to be a little bit of a different tradition than the mindfulness that we practice here. But he really is, I always find it interesting to see how other groups of people are trying to use contemplation. And I think he's trying to bring that sense to a universal idea about how people can be brought together around things like the sense of wonder. So,
and you know what? I would tell people, look up Carmen Herrera.
Carmen Herrera, yes.
There's a documentary about her. It was on Netflix or Prime, but it could be gone at this point, but it's really fantastic.
A great artist, over 100 years old, still making art. Anyway, that's Herrera, Carmen Herrera.
Yes.
All right, folks, we'll end it there. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you soon. Please do have a momentous day and weekend.